So what's the Grape Explorer talking about today? Well, one of the most interesting things about being in the wine business for many, many years, I've had a lot of experiences that I'd like to share with people, especially my trips and places that I've seen and been. Today we're going to talk about Chile. I was actually in Chile 20 years ago because I was working on a project to represent and import some Chilean wines. And on a trip, one of my colleagues told me, by the way, David, we got invited to stay with one of my friends who's the managing director of Los Vascos, which is owned by the Lafite Rothschild family. And then he asked me, we have been invited to spend the night at their place in Colchagua, which is called the Hacienda Los Vascos. And of course, I'm like, sign me up, I want to go. I would like to really learn a little bit about Los Vascos. But prior to that, one time I went out and I was looking at wines on the shelf and I saw a bottle of Los Vascos in Florida and it was $5.99. And I said, what the heck, I'm going to taste it and try it. And when I tasted the wines, I came back and I was like, if for $5.99, if California could do this, or even Bordeaux could do this, wow, watch out. This is going to be one of the most emerging areas in all of the world. And of course, this was 25 years ago, but to get the chance to go to Los Vascos was really, really interesting. So when we're having dinner in the cellars of Los Vascos, we did a vertical of the wine that's actually created there. It's called Le Dix. And Le Dix is their top wine that they make at Los Vascos. It's actually old vine Cabernet, and they blend in carmeniere. And carmeniere is a very interesting grape because it was planted throughout Bordeaux. But what had happened was they ripped up the vine, or through phylloxera, they changed. And of course, we're planting more Cabernet Sauvignon than carmeniere. But when a lot of the original settlers of Chile were looking to plant different grapes, they actually picked up Cabernet Sauvignon and they picked up carmeniere thinking it was Merlot, but it's actually not Merlot. So that's the reason why it's designated as carmeniere. And what happens is it flourished all through Chile and it makes one of the best wines, but when you blend it with Cabernet Sauvignon, it does create Bordeaux. And the interesting story about Los Vascos, and I actually had a chance to, and if you look at this area here, you can see that it's not far from Santiago. So we actually spent some time in Santiago. But I got a chance to talk to the Esquire Echerique family. They were the original owners of Los Vascos. And what they explained to me was that Eric Rothschild in Bordeaux one year with Vin Expo was coming down and visiting the Chilean booths, and he tasted Los Vascos and he said, wow, this wine is really, really good. I'd like to invest in this property. So he actually bought half of Los Vascos, according to the story. And then the family member had told me, we just could not keep up with the Rothschilds and their money. So they ended up selling the whole property to Eric Rothschild. And what Eric Rothschild was trying to say was, again, Los Vascos, remember now, $5.99, good value wines. He was really not trying to promote the higher end of the wines because, according to what we had discussed, he did not want that to compete with Bordeaux wine. Of course, the Rothschilds are very famous in Lafite Rothschild and also Duhart Milon. So he didn't want to build any competition. So coming back 20 years later, you're starting to see this wine in the United States. I actually had the privilege of tasting 5 different vintages at Los Vascos, and we're talking 20 years ago. And the wines were good. They were rock solid, but I thought, it needs a little time to express itself. So this is 2016, so this is the current vintage here. Again, Cabernet Sauvignon, carmeniere. You're getting a lot of that stone fruit. You get a lot of cassis. You get very bright red fruits. A lot of spice tone, but you get that earth. See, you get that terroir. And that's the secret that Chile has that even a lot of California wines do not possess. They don't have what's called terroir. So when you taste this wine, it's very reminiscent of Bordeaux, but the fruit is a little different, a little riper. Very silky tannins, very interesting minerality and expression. And you get a lot of that verve, but then you get those plum dried fruits in the back. This is very, very interesting wine. This wine retails for a little about $50, $60 a bottle. but it's the top wine from Los Vascos, and you don't see it in too many stores. If you have a chance to try this wine, and again, I wanted to explain this story of how there's an evolution going on in Chile, and they were making great wines. A lot of people look at Chile as the cheaper wines. No, 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 no. They make very, very good top-end wines, like Almaviva is very, very good. D's from Lafite Rothschild is very, very good. Again, this is a Grape Explorer, sharing experiences, talking about grapes, and talking about wine.